Hello friends! Today we have a very important video because we are going to talk about something that concerns absolutely everyone. The alt season of 2025. Will it actually happen? Or is it just another round of loud headlines that the market is hoping for?
Given that only 3 months remain until the end of the year, altcoin dominance is forming a pattern that almost exactly repeats what we saw in 2017.
Back then, we witnessed a long consolidation, a gradual decline, the formation of a bottom, and then a powerful vertical rally, when altcoins literally rewrote history. In just a few weeks, tokens gained tens or even hundreds of percent.
Many people back then first realized that fortunes could be made with altcoins.
And today, the technical picture seems to hint that history may repeat itself.
But the question is, should we rely only on chart patterns, given how much has changed?
In 2017, there were almost no institutional investors in crypto, while today we have Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs with billion-dollar inflows.
Back then, Bitcoin's dominance easily gave way to alts, but now most liquidity flows into Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Macro factors had little effect, but today the Fed's rates, US inflation, and the dollar's strength directly set the trend for the entire market. In 2017, altcoins moved chaotically, but now that's not happening. So we stand at a crossroads.
On one side, history repeating itself, a beautiful technical setup, and hope for an alt season. And on the other,
a new reality where funds, macroeconomics, and regulators dictate the rules. The big question is, will there be an alt season in 2025 or not? Let's first clarify what an alt season really is. In the simplest terms, it's a market phase when altcoins outperform Bitcoin in terms of returns. There is no strict rule about how many percent or multiples a coin must deliver. It's simply about alts performing better than BTC. Traditionally, the cycle starts like this. Bitcoin moves first, attracting liquidity.
Then Ethereum follows. Bitcoin dominance drops, and money flows into altcoins.
Large cap alts like Solana, XRP, ADA, AVAX, Link, and others begun to outperform Bitcoin. Another way to measure alt season is when 75% of the top 150 alts outperform Bitcoin over the past 90 days. By that definition, alt season already began in mid-September, because right now 75% of the top 150 coins are outperforming BTC. But here's the problem. Most crypto investors wouldn't call the current market behavior an alt season, because everyone remembers the wild rallies of 2017 and 2021 when everything pumped hundreds of percent. That kind of scenario is no longer possible in 2025. The market has changed. Liquidity now flows into ETFs, mainly into Bitcoin and Ethereum, not into random small-cap alts. Macro factors like Fed rates are the key driver.
Capital is spread across hundreds of projects. That means we won't see a massive pump of everything at once. However, this doesn't mean that altcoins won't grow. Certain sectors have already shown strength.
For example, smart contract platforms and AI-related tokens have recently outperformed, while Bitcoin lagged behind. Grayscale even described this as the beginning of a new kind of alt season, selective rather than chaotic. Why? Because regulations such as the US stablecoin law boosted DeFi, and because big companies are diversifying into different tokens, not just Bitcoin.
Looking at Ethereum and Solana, we can clearly see how strong capital inflows drive growth.
Ethereum rose over 200% from its April lows, largely thanks to ETFs.
Solana grew nearly 170% after Galaxy Digital bought over $1.5 billion worth of SOL in just 5 days. These examples prove that in today's cycle, only projects with a consistent source of capital, such as ETF flows, are capable of sustainable growth. Hype-only tokens may pump once, but then fade to zero.
That's why it's more important than ever to build a portfolio around strong, fundamentally backed projects, especially as we enter Q4, which has historically been the greenest quarter of the year. Looking at history, before every strong Q4 rally, there was a correction. For example, in late 2023, we first saw a 12% drop, followed by an 80% rally. Then last year, another correction of almost 19% came before Bitcoin surged over 100%. Right now, Bitcoin has already corrected about 8%, and many are panicking.
But corrections are a normal part of the cycle. They shake out weak hands before a real rally.
Macro remains the biggest variable. Fed policy, interest rates, and inflation data will determine how much risk capital flows into crypto. Michael Novogratz has said Bitcoin could reach $200,000 if the Fed takes a much softer stance after leadership changes in 2025. That could be a huge catalyst because lower rates weaken the dollar and push investors into riskier assets like crypto. At the same time, new ETFs may play a big role for altcoins. Several major firms, including Franklin Templeton, Fidelity, and Grayscale, have already filed applications for Solana ETFs. If approved, this could spark large institutional inflows into SOL and potentially trigger broader altcoin interest. Bitcoin dominance is another key metric. It currently sits around 56 to 58%, down from 65% earlier this year.
This shows money is gradually flowing into alts. If dominance drops toward 50-55% by the end of 2025, we could see a significant altcoin rally. But again, not across the board, Pradev, only strong projects with real backing. To summarize, a classic alt season like in 2017 or 2021 will not return. The market has matured.
Institutions now drive flows, and they only put money into assets with liquidity and fundamentals. The age of random tokens pumping 100x is over. Growth will still happen, but it will be selective, centered on projects with real products, partnerships, and institutional interest. So, will the market double by the end of the year? Honestly, unlikely. A 50% gain would already be excellent in the current environment.
The key drivers will be Fed policy, U.S. economic data, and institutional adoption. If these align, we could see a strong finish to the year. But investors should focus not on chasing hype, but on choosing solid, future-proof altcoins.